Sweet Lou. The comment I'll make in response to this before we'll cut Cam loose in regards to Mario Cristobal. First of all, the off-season look of Mario Cristobal, you can't have too many, aside from, as Cam illustrated last week for us and described, the wide receiver recruiting position has not been the best at that particular spot, and a few areas of concern. However, overall, obviously, the trajectory is sky high in recruiting. So Mario Cristobal is winning the offseason as he did to wrap up the 22 cycle as well. But keep this in mind, Sweet Lou, and I know I seem to be a defender of Mark Richt from time to time. I will say this. If you slice up Mark Richt's tenure at Georgia, I believe it's 8 of 15 years in the top 10 in the country. If Miami can first get to that level, because basically he's running a baseline of 10-2, basically is what he's doing for 15 years. 8-4 was like the absolute bottom. And that, I don't know that he did that once or twice. 9-3, 11-1. And then consider this. We're looking at a 12-team playoff in 2 years. We're currently operating in a 4-team playoff. Mark Richt had none of that. His Georgia team, he would have been living in a 12-team playoff. He would have
even a 4-team playoff. He would have made a couple
advanced
times.
To a 4-team playoff a number of times during his stay at Georgia. So he obviously had to finish in the top 2. So if they can elevate to Mark Richt type standards under the next format that's coming soon, they'd be in pretty damn good shape.
And Georgia was in pretty damn good shape, to be honest, but they just weren't, they weren't the biggest, baddest bullies on the block, which is what they've turned themselves into. And it's reasonable to desire that kind of growth, and it's good that they saw that growth immediately. But just like the helmet that's next to Miami over Mark's left shoulder there, Michigan tried that at a time by getting rid of Lloyd Carr, who was 9-3, 10-2 consistently, but then started struggling against, the team down south and all things like that. And they said, okay, well, we can expect to be, the champions of the West, the biggest and best. And they got rid of him, and it went south for a while, right? So, good on Georgia that they made it happen, but we've seen other teams desire to have that little bit of incremental growth from being very, very good to great, and that's hard to do. And, no, Mark Richt didn't win championships. I mean, at Georgia, right? He's a tipped ball from a championship game when Aaron Murray was there. If that ball falls incomplete, because they had no timeouts, just honestly let it hit the ground. Look, you got another play, you got time, but that isn't what happened, right? The ball bounced a different way. But from what we've seen, I'm not going to denigrate what Mark Richt did at Georgia as wholly unacceptable. Now, yes, we want to be more towards the championship end of things than the 8-4 end of things, but you really have to consider all of the things that are happening with this program and on campus that, show the extent of the rebuilding and restructuring that was necessary to get to where we want to go. They're going to eliminate, and I was wondering where this was going to go, but, Miami's going to build a football operations center. So you can say goodbye to that wellness center parking lot that's right there next to the wellness center on campus. I have no idea what they're going to do, if they're going to put in garage system or something, which would be terrible. My goodness, I couldn't even imagine trying to get in and out of a parking lot to go over there by the wellness center. But that's probably what they're going to have to do, because you have open space, precious little open space if you're going to put a complex of that size, right? So, okay, well, that's where that's going to go. But then you need to do and have and build that, right? You have to do all these things, structurally inside of the program that we're seeing, And look, it does take time, and it's going to take a while. And again, this is what I've been talking about having to turn over the roster in a couple of years, because you're not going to be able to turn over 90 scholarship players, on, the total incoming and outgoing in 1 year. You're just not going to be able to do that. But we all want to see more success. We want to see more immediate success and everything. And I know that everybody's going to push back and say, well, TCU did it. Well, Cool. They caught lightning in a bottle. They did better, obviously, and everything. And good for them. Great. But we're on a different path. And you just kind of have to, I'm going to trigger some people, but I always said that this phrase was bastardized by the person who said it, not by what this phrase is. But you have to trust that process, right? Or if you want me to say it a different way, buy in to the rebuild that Cristobal is doing in the way that he's doing it, right? So give it some time. And, you know, we are building the foundation for, I think, future success. But yeah, I don't think that writing it off as, you know, 8-4 in total is reasonable, which is really what we're saying by saying, oh, well, being Mark Richt, because clearly you're not talking about 11-1 Mark Richt, right? You're talking about 9-3, 8-4 Mark Richt, which again only happened a few years of his 15 at Georgia. I mean, it wouldn't be what we want, but it would be a step forward. But obviously, you had to take that step forward to get to the other steps forward that we also want to take.